broadcasting to you live from 15 Minutes of Flame. Today I'm actually trying to do something just a little bit different. I've got a simultaneous live stream happening with YouTube, and I'm not over on YouTube right now. I mean, I can't really eyeball it, but I'm assuming that it's taking place. It's never good to assume anything. But I suppose I could go over there and try to find out if it's happening. The reason why I'm streaming in a simultaneous fashion today is because I am trying to get people to migrate from YouTube to my website, which is 15minutesofflame.com. This is where the live streams are going to be taking place every single day. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys have a handle on that and know where to go. I've set up a chat. I'm still working some bugs out with that. The chat is ChatWe, and it's been pretty accessible, I think, for a lot of folks. So I want to go into my event here and just let me see what we got going on here. Let's see, let me refresh this page. Okay, it says broadcast is unavailable. I don't know why that's happening. I may have to reload and re-encode. Give me 1 second here while I do this. We're still working out some of the bugs, but we're moving along. So let me go back to my dashboard. Okay, we've got that streaming here. It should be streaming on YouTube. Let me go into my dashboard here. Let's do this. And then let me go into here, get some linkage happening, and reload. And let me go back into my website here. Let me edit this. Let's see if we can reboot. It's fun doing this stuff on Mercury Retrograde, isn't it? I think so. No. Okay. Pasting. And updating. Let's see what we got. See what's happening. Let me view the post. Should be good here. Check it out. Yeah, okay, so I'm in now, and I'm talking. Fantastic. How about that? Life is good. Life is good. And let me jump in and see what's happening with the chat. Do we have chat happening today? We should have chat today. Let me just check on the overall experience here. So let me see. Let me get back in here and do the edit if I have to. And sorry, this is all taking a bit more than do this. We'll work this out. Trust me, it's going to happen. It'll definitely happen. Give me 1 sec here. Just reload the chat just to make sure that it's happening too. Let me paste. Let me update, and let's go here. And it's saving, and let's get into the post and make sure everybody's rocking and rolling here. Let me just get in here, and there's ChatWe. All right, there's ChatWe. It's up and running, and it should be happening on YouTube. And I'm going to check the YouTube stats, or at least the what happens here after the fact. All right, so let's just roll with this, and let's get into today's show. Thanks for being here. This is 15 Minutes of Flame. I'm Robert Phoenix, and again, the idea is to do some migration. Let me just go into YouTube really quickly and see if I can actually see if the show is being streamed. A little quality control. This is the Virgo in me kicking in. Okay, so hold on 1 second. Let me just get into my channel. Yeah, it's happening. Okay, so Great. So we have the simulcast taking place. Okay, so everybody that's in the chat room, you just need to know, I'm going to put this link in the chat box. Okay? Well, I wonder if it'll let me actually put a link in here. So the whole idea is to go to 15minutesofflame.com. Okay? 15 Minutes of Flame. That's where this is happening. I've got a chat over there. I can type a message in. Hello, everyone. I feel like the shepherd. Come on over here. Come on over here. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to type the, there it is. So the idea, and I know YouTube is really convenient. You guys have a nice pipeline to YouTube, and I'm going to use YouTube on Friday and Sunday night. But the whole idea is to come over to 15 Minutes of Flame. This is why we did this. Okay, you don't have to do it now. You can stay on YouTube, but tomorrow, you know, I'll do this. I'll do these little simulcasts for the next few days, so that you guys can actually migrate on over. So 15minutesofflame.com. That's your destination. All right, cool. All right, so let's just get into this a little bit today. Try to catch up on where we are. Mercury retrograde. It's happening today. 29 degrees Pisces. Not my favorite. I gotta say, March is not my favorite time of year. I'm not a huge March person because I've had some strange shit happen to me in March over the course of my life, which I don't want to get into. But you know, everybody's got a month that they don't really vibe too well with. For me, it's March, and happens that it's actually opposite my sun sign. So in astrology, and I try to have a little bit of a flexible attitude and flexible belief system with this, because I don't want to get so locked in and it dominates my thoughts and my consciousness. But you also have to take it into account. In astrology, when you're in the opposite sign of your sun, it's not the best time for a person, right? Like their energy is much more congruent as the sun gets closer to their natal sun. In the Western Placidus system, and I'm not talking sidereal or any other systems. So basic astrology, when the sun is opposite your sun, you're not at the peak of your powers. And whatever house that the sun is in, that's where the energy and the focus theoretically should be. So in actuality, in the month of March, I should probably take it off because it's opposite my sun sign in Virgo. But I can't, because this is a 24/7 gig now, being a human in this experience where we are in this time. So I can take a few days off every now and then, but just because the sun is in the 4th house and I'm dealing with my South Node and a bunch of 4th house related stuff, you know, and I'm a 10th house person, it doesn't mean I can just push a button and say, you know, I'm taking the next 30 days off. It doesn't work that way. So at the risk of, you know, pushing things a little bit, here I am. Here you are. Thank you for being a part of the broadcast. Last night, I went to a city council meeting here in Fredericksburg, and it was really instructive. I learned an incredible amount last night because our petition has been recognized by the city of Fredericksburg to extract the hydrofluorosilicic acid from the water supply, and we're going to have a special election in November of this year. So it gives us a nice ramp-up time. You know, we've got a fair amount of time to turn people on, you know, educate the community as to why this is important. Okay? Now, some interesting developments have taken place, which I want to talk about today. But before I get to that piece, I wanted to just give my overall experience of what happened last night at the city council meeting. Now, remember, I've only been here a year, so I mean, there are people here whose families go back to the mid-1800s. So there's a guy on the city council. His last name is Lukenbach, and there's a town just you know, just a little bit southeast if you're named Lukenbach, and he's from the Lukenbach family. And the Lukenbach family, along with the Musebachs and a few other Bachs, I guess, they actually started this place, Fredericksburg. And they brought up this idea that this place was founded by people that didn't want other people to tell them what to do. These were the free thinkers. It's a very interesting, small chapter in Texan, American, European, and world history. This was a migration of people from Germany that came to this place and said, "Hey, look, we're tired of being told what to believe." They wanted to get out of government interference. They wanted to get out of religious interference. This is the roots of this place, and many of the same families that settled here are still involved in the political process. A lot of the people that own the land are still here, part of those families. So let me give you just kind of a snapshot of what happened last night. Unbeknownst to us, because we were there to support this small, brief agenda item, which was pushed way to the back of the agenda. Nothing conspiratorial about that. There were some other things going on. So there are two major developments that are taking place here in this town. Number one, they want to put a gas pipeline running right through this town. So they want to take this pipeline all the way from West Texas, bring it through the city, underneath the city, and all the way to Houston, okay? Because they want to sell whatever it is they're pumping through, whether it's natural gas, and I believe it is natural gas. They want to sell this to Europe, right? Because now there has been this mandate that the United States is going to become not just energy independent, that we're going to become dealers in energy. And Texas is one of the states where there are huge deposits of natural gas and oil. And so, of course, they're taking advantage of this. Now, the company that's behind the planned pipeline, so-called planned pipeline, is Kinder Morgan, who have they've got a pretty bad reputation, to be honest with you. So what we had last night, we had a group of people come out and speak to the fact that they don't want this pipeline running through this town. And they gave great story. There's a great story. This guy comes in, he has a presentation, and he talks about how in West Texas, there was this woman who, basically one day she saw her pool it was like the level was really low. So what she did is she pulled back the cover and she turned on the water, filled her pool up, and essentially the next day a pipeline which was 750 feet away from her house exploded. And this is a gas pipeline, exploded. And everything was just completely charred. And guess what she did? She hung out in her pool. Had she not filled her pool up, she wouldn't have had the requisite amount of water to hang out while everything was blazing. Now, she managed to escape most of this exploded pipeline, unharmed. I think she had a few minor burns. But then he told another part of the story where there was a young girl who used to go out in the morning and, look at the cows and stuff and bring her, 18-month-old brother out. They'd run around and pet the cows and chase the cows, typical West Texas, fun for, young kids. And this was, I think, probably back in the 70s, and you can see she was dressed in little 70s dress and all that stuff. Well, she's out one day, and the grandmother who was watching the young boy said, "Nah, he's not going to go out with you today. I'm going to keep him home." So she went out, I think, with her grandfather, and guess what happened? She goes out, and a freaking gas pipeline explodes. Now, it may have been the same pipeline that exploded with the pool. I wasn't clear on that. But the little girl was running basically on fire. And there was a picture, of her after the event. She had burns on her face. And then the guy telling the stories, he said, "If you haven't figured it out yet, I was the 18-month-old kid." So that was his older sister. And he said, if I had gone there that day, I probably wouldn't be here to live to tell the story. So this guy's got personal experience about these pipelines. It affected him deeply. And this is really interesting because, this is where people can speak truth to power, especially if they've lived through a situation. I mean, there's no cognitive dissonance there. That guy experienced sort of this horror of the pipeline, and the pipeline being incredibly unsafe. And they've got a fairly unsafe history, these pipelines, okay? Other people came up. There was this woman. She's not a public speaker, but clearly she was very religious. And she said, I prayed on this, and I hope we have eyes to see and hearts to feel. And she just laid this thing out. She asked great questions. Who's responsible for this? Who's responsible for this? What happens if this happens? And I was like blown away. I was blown away by, in many ways, these very plain-spoken people who were connected to an issue that affected them and their families and the land deeply. Okay? So, and this, to me, when I lived in California, okay, I lived just right at the cusp of Marin County. And I spent a lot of time in Marin County, especially in my 20s, 30s, 40s, etc. So I was really very well aware of Marin County consciousness, and kind of played. I played in that pool for a little bit. But as I began to migrate into my 50s, I began to see how insular and how much of a bubble these people in Marin County lived in. And there was this almost sense of arrogance and spiritual elitism that they had, and an attitude that they held towards the rest of the country. And sometimes conversations would come up and politics would come up, and there was this sense that they were in this golden bubble. And that other people outside of that golden bubble were ignorant, ill-informed, drove gas-guzzling cars, ate at McDonald's, shopped at Walmart, ate shit food. And look, I'm not saying that some of that doesn't happen. It does happen because sometimes those are the only options in town. Okay? So you'll go to places and fly over where there are very few health food options. There are very few really good restaurant options outside of fast food restaurants. There are very few places to shop other than the rapidly automated Walmart, okay? So I get it. It has to do in some ways with choice, options, being educated, and some of that is changing. Some of it is changing. And so some of these social changes are starting to move and encroach towards flavor. In some ways, it's actually quite good that it's happening. But getting back to this Marin County mindset, it was like they could not imagine what it would be like to live in a place like this. And this place, by the way, is actually fairly enlightened compared to some other places that I've actually driven through or had experiences with. But what they would not be able to wrap their heads around is the fact that these people who showed up last night were so articulate and so passionate about what's happening with the land, what's happening with the land that's been generational, what's going to happen with it moving forward, how is it going to affect people's lives. And the one guy who talked about what happened when he was a kid, he put up a picture of a kid, swinging a baseball bat, over like home plate, nearest place. And he says, this is my place. And that pipeline is going to run right underneath home plate. Do you want your kids coming over, taking some swings at my house with my kid? I mean, this is how passionate this guy was. Now, what's happening is that Texas has something called intestate law, which is connected to eminent domain. And because there's so many resources that are flowing beneath the surface here, the state of Texas, in conjunction with corporations, can basically take your land. If they think it's going to be fruitful, beneficial, and create income for a company and the state, there's a very easy process for them to go in and say, eminent domain. Now, they're working on that. And I'm learning all this because I had a conversation with the woman who gave that speech. And I said, hey, you did great. For somebody who's not a public speaker, you did fantastic. And we got into the topic around fluoride. She's from San Antonio, and she saw what happened with San Antonio. And we talked about this gas thing. And she said that people think in Texas, we're all about land rights and all the stuff that goes along being in Texas. She says that that's not really true. because of the way that the eminent domain laws have been set up. And now they're having some discussions in the Capitol about land reform and giving people, more rights, so to speak. But these people made a really compelling case about the pipeline, which runs not far from the freaking high school. Okay, not far from the high school. So when they asked Kinder Morgan why they were going to run the pipeline basically through town, they said, well, it had to do with the soil. Well, what do you mean? Well, it's going to be easier for us to do that. Well, why don't you run it north of the town so that you can essentially miss, the majority of the population? Well, it's hilly. Okay, so what? It's hilly. Deal with it. You're a multi-billion-dollar company. So what? You have to spend a few extra dollars. You'll make it back at some point. Whoever you're building the pipeline for will make it back at some point. It's just, what's your timeline, right? So basically, they're being lazy ass, MFers. So they're just going to run it through town because, well, the land is flatter. No, run it north of town. So again, a very passionate contingency about the pipeline was there. Now, the other thing we have here is a bypass. And the bypass is supposed to go around the town because we have a very nice little main street, and trucks go up through. So again, people organize. So this bypass is going to be 400 feet wide. And it's going to have service roads on both sides. And that's being run by TxDOT, which is the big, infrastructure highway division of the state of Texas. And so people have been very engaged with this. Again, there's eminent domain issues. Where is this thing going to go through? How's it going to run? Big ticket item. Real big ticket item. And not only that, but people thought through this. And it's like, if you have a piece of land that's kind of near what's going on with this proposed bypass, there's kind of this existential sense of doom. Like you're just waiting for a letter to come into your mail. It basically says you got to move, right? It's like it's kind of like you're gonna you've got like terminal cancer or something like that, and you're just hanging on and hanging on and hanging on. I mean, think about living with that every single day. I mean, this is a quality of life issue. So these people basically said, hey, look, why do we need a 400-foot wide highway? Why can't we just have like a county road that you guys are building a work around with? So they went to TxDOT and they said, why can't you just build a county road? So we don't build county roads anymore. If we're going to build something, it's going to be 400 feet wide. So really, I'm filling in the blanks here. And the reason they're doing this is ultimately because they're going to have to deal with self-driving trucks. And because that's where everything is going. You can't get a self-driving truck on a 2-lane, country road bypass. Can't do it. Can't do it. Because ultimately, that's the plan. And if they're going to be doing it with that stretch, they're going to be doing it with other stretches of other highways all across, not just Texas, but this country. Because we know that's where this is going. We know the driverless truck is coming. They're working on it assiduously right now as we speak. Okay? That's happening. That is happening. So I learned a great deal last night about not just how some level of politics works. I was kind of watching it there, the front lines at a local level, but also how people can organize and people can, this place was packed. Because these are decisions that affect their life, their property, the quality of their life, and the quality of their life from generations to come. And this is where we're at right now. We are on the front lines of all of this, whether it's land use, whether it's what we put in our bodies, whether it's the frequencies that we're taking in with the 5G, right? We are on the front lines of the human experience. And I was on the front lines last night at the city council meeting where people were expressing their grave concerns about 2 major pieces that are threatening to come in and change this area for forever, really. But what didn't come up was the fact that there is an agenda in play, and it is the smart cities agenda. It is Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, And it has to do with the Rio Summit and the UN's initiative for the Smart Cities program. And I guarantee you this highway piece is a part of it, because it's all about linkage at that point. And didn't bring it up, right? It's not the right time or place for that. But it's something these people should know about. They should really have their high beams on. So let's get to the fluoride piece. So our agenda, our item comes up on the agenda. Now the city manager chimes in and says we're going to have to change the language a little bit. We have to meet with these people and change the language. Well, first of all, the city manager is not even an elected official, okay? The city manager is somebody who's hired by the city. And in most cases, the city managers are the point person for Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030. They're on the front lines. And they're essentially sculpting and molding what takes place on a city level. They have an inordinate amount of power, the city manager. So the city manager basically says, well, we're going to have to work on the language, and we have to figure out what the cost is to the city to remove the fluoride. Now, here's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get the language so that all the fluoride is removed, meaning that they're going to not just take the pump, which is responsible for the hydrofluorosilicic acid off, but they're going to have to bring in new equipment to strip the naturally occurring fluoride out of the water and thus pass that cost on to the citizens. The citizens aren't going to want that. So they're trying to railroad us already, okay? Now we're supposed to meet with this guy, say, within the month. So I'm gonna actually pay a visit to him. I'm going to go down to his office and say, hey, nice to meet you, I'm with Clean Water Fredericksburg. I'd like to know when we can really meet with you, because I really am interested in talking about this language, because that's not what it said on our petition, and that's not what people signed. Okay, so now we're going to be getting into the weeds here. We're going to be getting into the weeds. I can already see it happen. One of the council members went, take the fluoride out. So we're going to have to be really, really on our A game, so that we don't let this guy change the language. It's like, no. In fact, the city will save money because you won't have to buy the hydrofluorosilicic acid and add it to the water supply. You won't have to do that. You won't have to buy a new machine every couple of years. No, we're not asking you to take the naturally occurring fluoride, which is different. And if you want to get in the weeds with it, we'll provide toxicology reports, we'll bring in experts, and we'll show you that it's different. We'll show you. And if they keep pushing back, then we're going to have a legal battle on our hands around the language of the amendment. So I'll keep you posted on that. It's something I'm real passionate about, and I'm very passionate about people who will potentially throw a monkey wrench into the gears of something that's starting to gain momentum. I'll keep you posted, and I'll let you guys know how it's going on the front with the so-called city manager. These city managers, it's like they're not even elected. And I know some of you out there have probably had a dance or two with the city manager in your community as well. All right, so that's the recap from last night. Let's get into some of the bigger items, the macro items. I want to talk about Ilhan Omar a little bit, and she's unrepentant in her criticism of AIPAC and Israel. Now, there's some weird things here with Ilhan Omar. First of all, I support her, at least to this extent, that we need to be able to talk about these things, right? So we can talk about, and people can talk about the NRA, and they can run down the NRA, and the NRA is racist, the NRA is redneck, and whatever, right? The NRA is a lobby that has a huge amount of influence. That's a clay pigeon. You can shoot that every day. Talk about that. But you talk about AIPAC, and it's like if you have a critical view of AIPAC, it's kind of like you're, I don't know, desecrating some of the most sacred objects on the planet. It's like you're talking critically about AIPAC is like, urinating in your grandmother's face or something like that. I mean, that's about as graphic as I can get without being overly graphic. It's like AIPAC is this sacred entity, and to criticize it or to call it out is to desecrate it into the realm of the profane. How can you do that? You anti-Semite! That's the big buzzword now. You anti-Semite! Reminds me of John Goodman's character, Walter Sobchak, from The Dude, right? The Big Lebowski. He's based on John Milius, by the way. Anyway, another story. So what's really going on here? Now, Ilhan Omar, I've talked about this before. Her mother is a Somali Jew. Her mother is Jewish. Now, whether or not that's recognized is a whole other thing, but it's true. How could she be anti-Semitic when, well, first of all, her mother is theoretically, technically Jewish. Maybe she's a self-hating Muslim Jew, which gets very, very complicated at that point, right? Number two, by and large, you got to get vetted. You got to get vetted by the very same lobby that you're criticizing in order to get elected. Just ask Cynthia McKinney, who is no longer in Congress anymore because she didn't play the game. So the question now becomes, did AIPAC vet Ilhan Omar? And if they did, then why is Ilhan Omar, well, why was she allowed to be elected? Theoretically, if they did vet her. If they didn't vet her, then, that's on them, okay? So what's really going on here? Is she actually being somebody who is bringing up this issue of free speech and being able to use her position inside of Congress to essentially denounce or bring some light to a very shadowy kind of operation? Is that not allowed? Doesn't she represent the people in her district, perhaps? Maybe the people in her district have said, hey, we're not cool with this. And if the people in her district are overwhelmingly Muslim, then probably that's the case. Now, what's happening is that they want to get her out of her committees. Trump has said, get her out. She can't be in the Congress. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. But is she being used? Is she being used as a point of contention so that this so-called hate speech, or the so-called hate speech laws, so-called anti-Semitism, can be brought to the surface and essentially, canonized, or at the very least, would be seen, noticed, recognized as something that cannot be discussed, that it is inviolate, right? Is this what's happening? Is this the role that she's playing? Is it to forward the lack of discussion, the lack of debate, by summarily just saying, we're going to crush this. We're going to crush her. We're going to crush anybody that says, you can't go here. Because to go here will bring up, everything that's associated with any kind of criticism of that lobby. I was watching this rabbi just going on and on and on about this whole thing. And he's like talking about, oh, it's right out of the Protocols of Zion and Mein Kampf. In fact, we're going to send her a copy of Mein Kampf. So immediately they go into this historical context that all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is a group, we're persecuted, we've been persecuted, and now look what's happening. The persecution level is rising. It's like the meter is rising, right? But no, what's really happening is people are waking the fuck up, okay? We're waking up. And I've tried to make the case that it doesn't matter if AIPAC is representing Israel, or if it's representing Djibouti, or if it's representing the Philippines, or if it's representing Hungary. Anytime we have a lobby in this country that wields an inordinate amount of power and influence, it bears scrutiny. Okay? It just does. The Chinese should bear some scrutiny as well. The Crown of England should probably bear scrutiny. But let's start at one place and at one level. You know, and in what other country in the world do we recognize dual citizenship with and allow these people inside of our government to actually be able to be on, you know, represent the people theoretically in their district or in their state, as was the case with the senators? We don't recognize dual citizenship with any other country. You know, if somebody's Chinese and they have a dual citizenship with China and they ran, what do you think would happen? What kind of outcry do you think would emerge from the media? What if they were Russian and they had dual citizenship with Russia? Do you think they would even be remotely allowed to get anywhere near the application process? No, absolutely not. But somehow it's okay. It's okay for dual citizens to be recognized with Israel. To me, there should be no dual citizenship. None. Period. End of story. Eliminate the dual citizenship. If we're going to play at a governmental level, and I'm playing the governmental level game in my head right now, eliminate it. Period. Done. Kaput, right? You know, by the way, can you throw some term limits in there, you know, while we're cooking this up? That would be mine. Term limits, I think, are essential. I think you get 2 terms and you're done. 2 terms, done. Maybe 3. 3 is a good number. 3 and you're done. See you later. You know, this is supposed to be an act of service. Not a career where you can profit immensely, and I mean immensely, off of your participation in a system that encourages it. That's why people get in. People like to say, oh, I want to represent the people. I think some people do. By and large, man, it is Perk City. It is Perk City in the 202. Speaking of Perk City, it looks like Alexandria Cortez is under the hot spotlight. Okay, so let's just go over a few tidbits here with Ms. Cortez. First of all, the genesis of her emergence, which I don't think is, people kind of made a big deal of this, right? So the Democrats, was it the New Social Democrats or Democrats for New Democracy, the group that Paikat Chakrabarti is essentially running, they basically did a casting call. And they said, look, we want people who fit this profile. And Ocasio-Cortez's brother nominated her. She had theoretically, she had no interest. I think she's a cutout. I think it's part of a bigger process. But this is what's coming to light, was that she responded to a casting call, which some people are saying, well, she's an actor. Well, you know, I mean, this is how these things happen sometimes. But I do believe she's a bit of a cutout. Anyway, that's come to light. People are going, wow, you know, she's a fake, she's a phony, she's a fraud. I think there is some of that. I do think there is some of that. Now the scrutiny is happening. Well, where does she live? What's going on with her residence in New York, which seems to be just a shell. You know, who knows really where she's living and really what she's, you know, what she's up to. But clearly it's not Parkchester, because she's never there. She was never really there, right? So there's that. Then there's the $800,000 in campaign. I believe it's the SEC, right? They're kind of going after her now. They're looking into her campaign financing. And then there's the funneling of money to her boyfriend, who I think his name is Riley Reid, and how there's this very sketchy kind of, well, he's on the board, or he's part of Chakrabarti's group, and there's weird kinds of things going on with the money going to him. So she's under a fair amount of scrutiny. It's going to be very interesting to see how she responds to pressure, because pressure is one of those things that can absolutely just crush a person. And it's one of the things that I think has been kind of remarkable about Trump in some ways. And who knows behind the scenes what's going on with that guy. I mean, it could be the madness of King Donald behind the scenes. But at least in the public eye, this guy presents a fairly consistent, if at times erratically consistent, and at times eccentric view of his projection as the president of the United States, right? But think of the pressure there. And if you're not Trump, think of the pressure of the United States, because you are in the vice grip of special interests. You're in the vice grip of the swamp. It's just squeezing you every day so that you can make compromise decision after compromise decision after compromise decision, which I think is kind of what's happening. It's not looking good for him on the wall. It's not looking good for him on the declaration of emergency. He's having a bit of a Republican rebellion inside the Senate. Rand Paul, who has been a supporter, is all of a sudden now not supporting the call for a national state of emergency. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Will Trump veto it? I mean, he could. I mean, they could all say no. We're gonna vote this down. He could say, sorry, veto, and then it goes to the courts. But now we're into a process that's pretty tricky. Okay, pretty tricky, because at that point, Trump is becoming, he's resembling even more of an oligarch and kind of a populist, almost Mussolini-like figure than he has in the past. Okay, because now there are people who are even in his own party who are saying, well, we don't really want to do this. Now, you can call them out, say, well, you're rhinos, and you need to be replaced. Some of that's probably true as well. I think we need a big flushing of the system. I think we need a real third party here, a real third party that addresses some of the pieces that I talk about on a consistent basis. Whether it's fluoride in the water, crap in our skies, genetically modified foods. When you eat something, when you eat an apple, you don't want to eat an apple and a freaking nematode gene or whatever that they've slipped inside the apple. You want an apple. You don't want an apple that's got the gene of some deep sea animal, so that the frost doesn't affect the apple as much, because it's got this gene in there which makes it cold resistant. No, you don't want that. You want an apple, right? I mean, theoretically. Anyway, I'm digressing a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. It hasn't been a great couple weeks, from Cohen to the summit in Korea. I've got no comment about that. I mean, I think it's a big dog and pony show to begin with. North Korea is a client state. CIA has been in there for years. And how do you think North Korea actually lives? It's a country that has crappy soil. I mean, we have no idea what's going on with North Korea. I think it's a client state, and I think a lot of it is a dog and pony show. That's my opinion. You may have your own opinion, and that's fine. This is a time where we can theoretically have different opinions. We're not always going to agree. And that's been clear over the past couple of days, as far as I can see. And in Mercury retrograde, it's going to be fascinating to see this get played out in what's being resurrected or being brought up from the past. I can only hope that it's simply the best, right? That was being brought up from the past. Speaking of the past, I was thinking about, remember, I'm going to have a few of these moments over the course of Mercury retrograde. Do you remember when you were younger, if you're like, say, 40 and above, and I think some of you skew, or most of you skew in that direction, do you remember you used to take a pair of jeans and just cut them off yourself, right? Do you remember that? As a kid, I'm going to cut these jeans. Now, some people were very, very good about it. They'd take a ruler, and they would take a marker, and they would make a line, right? And they'd cut along that line. I was one of those people who didn't do that. So every now and then, my jeans would be like a little bit like this, right? But I just thought about it. Kids don't do that anymore. You know why? Because they can buy cutoff jeans. They can buy designer brand cutoff jeans where the cuts are perfect and the fade is at its peak fade, right? It's just a trip down memory lane. Speaking of a trip down memory lane, Luke Perry passed away yesterday. Kind of a shocking moment for Gen Xers who grew up with Beverly Hills 90210, and then after that the TV series Riverdale. Luke Perry died of a massive stroke. He was in the hospital about a week ago. Now there was some bit of a rumor that he had gotten some kind of a vaccine. Now I can't confirm that rumor. I checked around and was not able to find anything that even resembled that. But I did initially see a few posts around that. Anyway, Luke Perry passed away. It gives you kind of a sense as to this mortality game. And it's not just a mortality game that people in their late 50s, 60s, and 70s are experiencing. It's trending down. Luke Perry was 52 years old, so he's 6 years younger than me. He was born in 1966. Not quite a boomer. He's kind of in that Gen X period. Apparently I'm a boomer. Actually, that's kind of the big demographic. I'm a sub-generation. There's a sub-generation in between boomers and Gen X called Generation Jones. That's right. We're also called Generation Zero. I wrote about this a long time ago. And we don't get enough play, to be honest with you. We're in the shadow of the baby boomers. We're in the shadow of the baby boomers, and we're kind of, not as popular or wildly demographic as Gen X. Gen X was a very popular demographic, right? It was really pandered to by advertisers in a lot of ways. So we're sort of this, we're like the middle kid. It's roughly from about 1958, 59 to about 1964, 65, right around there. I'd say probably from about 59 to about 65. So that 58 to 65, 7 years. Let's do 58 to 65. And then 66, I think we're moving into Gen X territory. That's my sense. Even though it's not quite Pluto and Libra, which is kind of where Gen X really takes off, and that takes place, I think, 1970, 71. But it's a precursor, and I think a lot of the people in that last wave of Pluto and Virgo fall in that Gen X category demographic. Got about 8 minutes left here on this stream. Let me check in with you guys on YouTube and see if how you're doing and what's taking place here. And let me see the chat. What we got in the chat here? You really need to monitor the general chat room. Okay, do we have trolls? Is that what's happening? This is why. Okay, so this is why I started this. Okay. What do we have here? Time. Let's see what we have here. Equicentric. There's Tracy Ragsdale. Good morning. Hi, Tracy. So I really want you guys to come over to the 15 Minutes of Flame site. Okay, this is why I set this up. This is why you guys pitched in and did the GoFundMe. So I am doing this simulcast today so that you understand where we can all go. And at some point, I want to come over here and basically say, hey, look, there's nobody in here. Okay, there's nobody in this chat room. So come on over. I'm going to do this the rest of this week. And if I could put the link in here in the chat, I would certainly put it in. Oswald Spengler, I'm a millennial who still cuts jeans. Right on. Good for you. Good for you. Let's see who else we have here. Ani Brito, soils can be rebuilt with composting and planting native species. Robert, and what about Q and Anon? So you QAnon? I think QAnon's a limited hang. That's what I've always said. That's my opinion. What else do we have here? Did you see how angry you got when you have to deal with governments? It was not angry. It was impassioned. 3/7's Divine Michael. There's a difference between angry and impassioned. I was impassioned. Yes. And there could be righteous anger too. Government to control the mind. You break down the etymology. That's what it means. Look, we have to self-govern, and we have to have some. Look, we're in a Pluto, Saturn, Capricorn phase right now. We have to learn how to do it ourselves. And in order to do it ourselves, we have to be able to disassemble the powers, theoretically, that are determining the rules of engagement with how we are governed. And I got no problem with that. What's going on, Mona? Site doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? It's working for me. I'm streaming right now. I really need to monitor the general chat. You're in the wrong room. Use general. Oh, okay. Where is general chat? Okay, here we go. My bad. Hey, what's going on, general chat? Thank you. Thank you. I'm here. Cool. All right. Awesome. There we go. So we got general chat. There's Maury there. There's Judy. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate that. We're working this out in real time. Thanks, Solara. There we go. Learning on the fly. Beautiful. Okay, so we got people over on 15 Minutes of Flame. We got people in the chat room. Kate Nine's there. Solara's there. Maury's there. Who else do we have? Judy's there. Chris and Steve are there. Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful. So everything's working over here. And hopefully you guys can come on over. And we got Solara typing. Here we go. Beautiful. All right. I need a brief tutorial about web chat. I think you just go in and join, right? I mean, we've got site issues. I don't know what the site issues are. I got people that are over there right now. Like I'm streaming right now. Anyway, the stream's about to end. And I'm going to try to do this again tomorrow. We've got a bunch of people that are in. Steven, Sticky Marks, Chris and Steve, Dianamo. Who else is there? Let's see, Proverb Monkey. We got a bunch of stuff happening. We got Guest Faith, Guest Grant, Guest Jax. So let's try this again. Keep on coming over because the site is working. We got people in here. I don't know why there's a bit of a disparity, but I'll continue to work on this. Okay, works for me. The website is working. So last count, website's working. Hey Michael, what's going on? So it's a Mercury retrograde. We're going to put it all together. Okay, we're going to put it all together. Yes, site does not work. I'm not sure why it doesn't work. Because people are there. We'll figure it out. I'm going to do this again tomorrow. I'm going to do the simulcast for a while. So you're confused. 15minutesofflame.com. 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 I cannot enter into the chat right now here. I can't. I'll put it in public comment. Here we go. 15minutesofflame.com. There it is. That's where I'm streaming from. Right there. You can see it in the comments. Okay? You see it in the comments. There we go. Will there be a platform with no censorship or fear of financial blockage? Let's see. I first went to your website, didn't see the chat. Please leave a link. Look over here. You see where it is? It's over in the comments section. It's right there. Look to the left of top chat. It says to log in, but I can't. It's right there. That's all you got to do. Boom. Right there. 15 minutes of flame. So if I go to this link right now, what will happen? I'll open it up. Let's see what's happening. 15 minutes of flame. Okay. So I got to deal with the DNS search as well on this thing. All right. That's where you want to go. 15minutesofflame.com. Hold on a second. I've got the wrong link in there. Hold on. It's a total Mercury retrograde. Let me ditch this shit. Hold on. Hold on a second. Let me delete. All right, here we go. It's over here. I put the OV. Give me 1 sec. We're going to get this. 15 minutes of flame.com. There it is. It's right there with the right spelling. I'm going to hit that comment. There's the link. I'm going there. And I'm on the website now. and then you link in, you just click this, you hit the little thing, and there I am. There I am. I'm talking. It's all linked up. So you want to click on everything. Yes says, well, everything's working on this website. So there you go, boys and girls. It's right there. Please come over. We got a party going on. It's right there. This is today's stream. It's happening right now over on the website. Bada bing. Okay? No, look at it's OV. OV. It's just like the YouTube channel. OV. Okay? Great website, find now. Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right? Use your head and discern what's true, your heart to say what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Please join me tomorrow. I'll do the simulcast again as we begin the great migration. The great migration to 15 minutes of flame. Take good care.